So,
Yeah.
all right. Yeah. So first episode of the Nocturnal Dissonance podcast. We got my boy Spife, fucking artist, musician. He makes his own. You make your own musical instruments. You do design work now. You're doing the clothes now. It's like you're a man of you're doing a lot of stuff, and I think that was why you were like the first thought that I had when I was like, oh, I want to start like interviewing people because it's like, dude, you do everything, and I just think it's like the coolest thing. Like it's like I find it very just like I don't know, being having like online friends and just seeing like just anybody that I'm friends with and I seeing them do cool stuff. I find it like really inspiring. And so
Oh yeah.
then like, to see someone doing everything that you're doing, it's just like, whoa. Um, but yeah, so like what I guess like your biggest thing that you're probably known for is like is the music, of course.
Yeah.
What kind of got you started yeah, like what kind of got you started doing like music and what led you into like doing kind of like the stuff that you're doing now, like the dungeon synth audio narrative type stuff?
Yeah. Let's see. Probably about like 6 years ago, I was starting messing around in GarageBand and stuff. Just I got like an electric guitar and a bass that I worked for. This is like high school, late high school. Um, got that stuff. I was big into Mac DeMarco at the time.
Hell yeah.
So I was just vibing with that stuff. Having a good time learning a bunch of songs. I was into like Tool as well and classic grunge and stuff like that. Then I got into like progressive rock. So a lot of like Rush, Yes, Genesis, stuff like that. Um, they all had a lot of like concept albums that I was a huge fan of the idea of a story told through music.
Oh yeah.
But then I started making electronic music. and,
Yeah, because you did like the that was like something else that like I was because I've been kind of going through your Bandcamp discard. I think you have like 42 releases on there, so it's a lot to like work through. But you have like the some stuff that's kind of like drum and bass breakcore like type of stuff too.
yeah,
So
I was big into Machine Girl, still am.
yeah,
And that kind of spurred this like breakcore jungle, the modern wave of that stuff that's happening right now. I was dabbling in that for a while. I still do. I have like tons of different series of albums that I do, and that's the kind of the Blinded Creatures series is focused on that drum and bass jungle stuff.
yeah,
So I still do that stuff, not as frequently as I used to. It's just I was like super into like sampling like drum loops and stuff through GarageBand. I still use GarageBand for all my stuff. Um, but yeah, it was easy to do that way. But then I wanted to shift into something that was more I don't know, conceptual. And I stumbled upon Dungeon Synth. I think like as far as like the first few artists that I actually listened to a lot, it was like Reclusive Goblin, Putrid Marsh, him, love his stuff. Thief,
oh yeah,
modern classic, and then Maidenhair of England.
oh yeah,
But I'm super cool with them now. I
yeah.
love those guys.
You guys have done some work together too, right? Like you guys have
Yeah,
collaborated and stuff. So
yeah.
yeah,
I wrote some story for one of his strands. Yeah,
yeah, that's something I like really I like would love to see like in the kind of just like in the community, is like it's like you could come in and it's like, you're inspired by a like a musician or whatever, right? But it's like the community is so small and tight knit that it's like that person that could inspire you to get started, it's like once you get going, you could very easily be working with that like alongside that person. And it's just like it's just the coolest thing, to like just to see that like, you know. Um
it blew my mind when I was actually like chatting with people like Bard Coon. I
yeah.
love him so much. He's so talented, and like now we're close and everything. We like talk a lot, make a lot of music together. We got more stuff in the works right now, more collabs.
Mhm.
Um, and like Maidenhair, Deep Gnome, all these guys. I'm like Tomb Wizard, bro. I
Yeah.
freaking love.
No, it's so funny because it's just like yeah, it's crazy how like it's just like, I mean, I know all these people too. So it's like
Exactly.
we're just all in this like same little bubble thing, and it's just like
Yeah.
it's just like the coolest thing. I'm like so glad to be, to be a part of it. So, um, but with your albums, like there's like a lot of with like the storytelling and stuff. There's like a lot of
Yeah.
just like depth to it, I guess. With all the different characters and stuff. It's like, um, what what's your songwriting process like? Like, how do you come up with like the different characters and storylines and all that stuff?
Oh man. So my first venture into Dungeon Synth was Escaping One of that trilogy that I just finished this year. Um, and what happened, I was writing the music first, and I had like story beats in my head that weren't fleshed out. I just had like emotive story beats that I wanted to fulfill musically. Then I put those together. For that series too, I was very inspired by like old school video game soundtracks. So I bit crushed everything. Um, had like a old fretless bass Yamaha sound for all this stuff. So yeah, very inspired by those things. But yeah, I was looking more for emotional beats in the
Mm,
music, and then the story bubbled out of those things, connected like a bridge. It was really interesting because the story just happened, and I was like, okay, this is fun. I always loved writing as a kid, but it wasn't
mm,
great. But now I'm like, okay, I'm enjoying these. It doesn't have to be super super serious, but it can be too.
yeah,
Um, and then from there, I transitioned to more of writing story beats and then bridging it with music and then coming back and fleshing it out completely. And that's kind of the process I'm at now. Um, for me, I'm always searching to hit certain emotions in music. In fact, there's one emotion that I don't even know how to describe that I hear in a lot of music, especially in the black metal and dungeon synth scene. Um, like the only way that I can describe it is like in between a peak of finishing something and the come down of, oh, I have to figure out something again. That in between
mm,
is that emotion of intense happiness, also kind of sorrowful, almost melancholic. So I'm always reaching for that and trying to find new ways to push that in music and unite that with story. So it's like, I don't know, it informs itself. It's a cycle.
yeah, yeah. That actually kind of brings me to one of my other. I noticed in your I like this is something I saw like way back, and I've like always been meaning to ask you about it in your Bandcamp bio that everything moves in circles. Is that like
Yeah.
a is that like a reference to something, or is it like a I don't know, is it just like a philosophy? Like where does that I don't know. I like the way it sounds, it just and it's so I mean it's true. Like everything's
Yeah.
just cyclical. So
Um, it was something I came to a realization in my own life and my family's life, and just seeing how the world works and how my own life moves. Things
mm,
will repeat and repeat until you're ready to move on from that, and then it just moves into another circle. So it's very, to me, I view my life very much as a like a circle, a cyclical almost thing, and it kind of refreshing because I get
mm,
to try stuff over and over again until I'm ready to move on and then continue. Yeah.
yeah.
It's
I
more
love
of a
that.
spiral than a circle, but it's still a circle.
Yeah. Right on, dude. Something else I've been kind of curious about is like so we have our the upcoming release that we're doing with the history of mankind VHS. I wanted to ask
Yeah.
like what the I wanted to get into like what the live scene is out there like
Oh
that
yeah.
because like I see you're playing shows and like you're doing like the elaborate stage setups and stuff and like
Yeah.
are you are you from like a bigger you're in Tennessee, right?
Yeah, I'm in like Chattanooga area in Tennessee,
Okay.
so it's not a huge. I think Knoxville and like Nashville are way bigger,
Uh-huh.
but Chattanooga is really open for artists and stuff. And I
Uh-huh.
graduated from university with a fine art degree, and I had a lot of friends who also graduated and got into the art scene in Chattanooga. And we, I don't know, by some chance, got in link with a lot of different like venues and stuff. Like where Histories of Mankind was performed was a art gallery and residency in Chattanooga called Stovework. Um, it's a really great place. I love it a lot. And in their courtyard, they had this art installation that's like a top of a house submerged in the ground. So it's just the top that you can walk inside and stuff. And that's where we had the performance. It was really cool, like a significant amount of people showed up, more than I expected, to be honest.
Yeah. That's always
um,
great when that happens. Like,
yeah, it was crazy. as Spife, I've only played 2 or 3 shows.
Mm.
Um, History of Mankind was the first. I played somebody's birthday party because they requested me to, so that was really cool. Um, and that was actually recorded as Eaters of Magic. That live recording that I released was from
Okay,
that.
yeah, I was listening to that earlier today, actually. Yeah,
Yeah,
I wasn't sure. Yeah, because I was listening to that earlier today, and then I wasn't sure if there was like footage or not of that one. So
yeah. I didn't get footage for that one.
okay,
I didn't have a camera on me at the time. But and then the Skilthian Sword performance from Knoxville this like 2 weeks ago.
mm.
That's super cool to get asked to come play and I see other people in the scene too. Um, I hadn't have heard of either of the guys until this show, but they're
Mm.
really good artists, really really great stuff. It's just cool to meet other Dungeons and artists too in person.
Yeah,
I was trying to go to Northeast Dungeon Siege this year. Didn't happen, but I'm planning for
yeah.
next year.
I'm hoping to be able to go next year. Yeah, the plan. I was trying to go or like to this one's, and then it just like the planning was just like too tight to make it
Yeah,
happen. But hopefully next year.
yeah,
Um, do you think? So like something I'm like really interested in seeing is just like more like live dungeons and black metal acts.
yeah,
Um, do you think? Do you think that's like something that we as like an eventuality, like just as like as I mean, black metal has always been kind of like a thing, but dungeon synth, I feel like it's like almost like it's like more accessible little brother, you know? Like
yeah,
I mean, yeah, just I mean, like last week we had Assorted Potions come to Wichita and like, you know,
yeah.
I mean all yeah, and like, you know, all the kids there, it's like because yeah, it's like an all ages venue. It's all I don't know. I feel like I'm kind of aging myself by saying this, but it's all like, you know, average age is like 20 years old, and they're, you know, they all
Right.
came out to see some like hardcore punk bands, and then, but they were all just jamming to Assorted Potions, like really into it, you know, and it just gave me like, yeah, you know, I was just like, man, I feel like this could be like a, you know, big wave of just like if more people are just willing to, get out there and you know perform live.
Yeah, I think it's an interesting mix of seclusion and performance happening right now in the Dungeons and scene. Because myself, I'm somewhat reclusive. You know, I stick to
Mm,
myself the majority of the time. I honestly don't go to very many shows around here, even. But um, I don't know. I'm starting to go out more, and actually, you know, getting to perform is super fun.
yeah,
Um, and I definitely am seeing that more and more, like with what Assorted Potions is doing with his little tour that he had. That was super super good stuff.
yeah,
See that traveling through the states too was like, wow, okay, yeah, I think
yeah.
it's
No,
growing. I think it's growing for sure.
yeah, I really like. Yeah, I don't know. I just like I hope it to continue to see it like you know just more artists do like more live performances and stuff. I just feel like
Yeah,
there's a lot of I mean you know just with I mean you can see it with like your sets like there's just so much potential for like theatrics and just like making like a very like it's not just music, it's like a full performance event.
yeah,
um and like and it, you know because of that too I feel like it has like a it's not doesn't have and I don't know this might be you know I'm not trying to come off like a sellout or something but it's like you know I think yeah you know there's just like there's potential for it to be played live and then you know weird performance art going into it like I just it has the potential to hit that like to get like people that otherwise wouldn't be aware of the scene or be into it you know I think it has a lot of I think it's accessible, which I think is good. You know,
yeah,
depending on I don't know. Some people want to might disagree with me on that, but or you know they don't want it to be accessible, but you know,
yeah. I mean,
uh,
we have no control over who accesses it or not. And I don't want to be that person to gatekeep or whatever.
yeah,
You know, I love it when newcomers come and make good stuff. I wouldn't be here if I wasn't a newcomer into the Dungeon scene 3 or 4 years ago. So,
yeah.
yeah,
It's like everybody is like a little bit wet behind the ears stuff because it's everything.
yeah,
It's been around for a while, but then it's also just we're in like this like weird renaissance of it, I guess. You
yeah.
know, so it's just kind of yeah,
It's an incredible thing. It's an incredible thing.
yeah.
I'm telling you, I think there's untapped potential at Renaissance fairs for live Dungeon Synth performances.
Oh, that would be yeah. Because like
I'm
they, you know, they'll have like people playing like you know like the older like medieval instruments and stuff, and it's
yeah,
like yeah, like Yeah, or even I've even had the thought of like if you had like a if you booked a show with like a dungeon synth artist, it's like you could find one of the bands that would play at a Renaissance fair and be like, "Hey, I got a regular gig for you,"
Yeah.
and it would totally fit in. Like,
100%. No, it's crazy. I'm actually looking into the potential of setting up at Renaissance fairs, either to perform music, or to have my like rare drop booth or something.
yeah,
Um, but I think it's definitely a thing that could happen, and I'm looking forward to seeing if more Dungeon Synth like festivals pop up. Um, I know the Northeast Dungeon Scene is huge and is an incredible thing to
hmm.
like know that exists every year. That's like so cool. Marge Didge, um, he kind of sets up a Southeast dungeon skirmish that I
That's
don't
the
know if
it's
that
like live, right? It's on
yeah,
Twitch or okay.
yeah, he's had it there. As far as I know, eventually it's gonna become like an IRL thing too. So that'd be
Cool.
really cool. It's just starting to spread. Um, this year for my birthday, I had a little homemade Renaissance fair in my backyard, and it was just friends right now and stuff. And I did some live music and had a bunch of other like fun games. But eventually, I would love to expand that into something that's just another festival of
Yeah.
just fantasy nerd stuff.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I think it's just a matter of getting like um that's always like the toughest thing is just like but it's hard to like because it's like getting like putting together like a festival and just like a show and stuff. It's just like it's a collaborative thing, you know?
Yeah,
But and so it's like it seems like a big daunting thing, but then it's like if you can find people that are willing to like, get together and like pull it off, like it's definitely because yeah, it's just I don't know, I think yeah, I think that's kind of like they have the there's the Great Lakes Dungeons and like Instagram page now,
yeah,
which I kind of blew my mind seeing like just all the artists kind of like in that little pocket of the Midwest, and it's like not everybody needs to be like in the same town or whatever to be like organizing and getting like events together, like it can be like
exactly.
a once a year thing, but yeah,
Yeah,
I think yeah, it's just like a matter of like people being willing to like collaborate and stuff and like, work
yeah.
with other people and stuff.
The
Um
pockets are growing. It's interesting to see how many people in this scene I'm finding in Tennessee.
oh yeah,
Um,
yeah.
Tafral Cave, the guy who put together the show in Knoxville. Um, he's a really cool guy. I think his name is Mason. He's also from Forest of Gin. Um, he put together the show in Knoxville. You have Daedric's Chamber, Snitz from Knoxville, I
Yep.
think. Who else is around here? Big Tobacco Records, Hewer of Caves. They're from Knoxville. Um, who else? I know there's more, but I'm blanking. But there's a ton of people in Tennessee. The pocket's starting to grow. So
Yeah. It's like
yeah,
I mean over here I don't know, like Kansas doesn't really have anything, but then I've seen like Texas has like a seems to have like a growing scene with sort of
true.
potions down there, and then the Denton Dallas area has like a few guys out of
Okay.
there too. So it's like yeah, that's probably will probably grow and envelop more into like the Midwest, and then yeah, man,
Yeah.
it's just bubbles growing, and it's like eventually we've taken over.
Yes. Yes.
I love it. Yeah. Um. So yeah, you had mentioned you're doing like a booth at the Renaissance Fair for your rare drop stuff. That was
Yeah.
something else I wanted to like kind of get into, like what got you started doing I guess like making clothes, designing clothes. We've talked a little bit about kind of like your sewing process and stuff. You
Yeah.
kind of like kind of got me started too. So yeah,
Yeah.
I'd love to get more into yeah, your clothing brand or however you would do you consider it like a clothing brand, or is it like a because it's kind of like limited one-off pieces, so it's like I don't yeah.
It's almost in between art and clothing. I was actually talking about this with Sweet Eight Bitterness, the person who did the Staffroll's Game Boy cartridges of the Dungeon Synth album.
Oh yeah.
We were talking about how like all the little like quote unquote gimmicky stuff that you get in Dungeons and stuff, like all the extras and the neat release formats that are archaic and stuff. I love that. It makes the music an art piece outside of just being a music thing.
Mhm.
And I kind of take that with my music, my physical releases, and with the clothing and stuff that I make. Um, Everything that I've made so far, I try to use stuff that is, um, oh gosh, like blanking right now, like re scavenge basically. I
Mhm.
try to I go to thrifts, I pick up clothes that are either, still looking good and stuff. I just try to keep stuff out of landfills basically.
Yeah.
um Take that stuff, alter it, remake stuff. All the blankets that I get for my wizard cowls are thrifted. I've been finding a lot recently, actually. It's good stuff out here.
Yeah. No, I love going to, the state sales and thrift stores and all that stuff. And yeah, I'm always just like on the lookout buying clothes for myself. And it's like
Yeah,
the big thing that made me want to like yeah, seeing the stuff that you were doing, it kind of like was like, man, I can just like I need to learn how to like at least be able to alter my clothes because it's like
definitely.
there's so much cool stuff I have to pass up on because it's like too big for me. So I'm like,
Yeah,
you know, uh,
man, I've given up on wearing normal clothes at this point.
uh,
Um, I want to bring like fantasy and whimsy into other people's lives because I know for me, if I saw somebody wearing a wizard hat or one of my cows out and about, it brighten my day.
yeah,
Um, and I want to bring that to more people to almost be like, hey, you can do this too, type thing.
yeah,
Um, yeah. So for me, I got into all this sewing stuff. In college, I switched up my fashion stuff from high school to college. There was a big shift. There was a really, really affordable thrift shop down the road from my college. I think it's like 75 cents an article of clothing there for stuff. So super, super cheap. Um, and I would just buy stuff, no matter if it was bigger than me or not and stuff. Then I would end up altering stuff slightly, making stuff the way that I wanted it to, drawing on shirts and stuff like that. Um, and my university had like a market night for all the students to have booths in. So my
oh,
friends and
cool,
I would make art clothing pieces that were like customized, thrifted stuff, resewing things like crazy, and then selling them through that. Um, then after that, I got into the screen printing class at my university and learned all about like screen printing and stuff. Um, and now I'm at this point where I'm trying to make limited pieces of clothing that are affordable for people to buy. So it feels like you're buying an art piece that you can wear and it's not like stupid expensive or something.
yeah.
Yeah.
No, I love the stuff that you've made so far. Like the wizard collars are super cool, and like that, like 12 gene, like that man, that was just like, yeah, that was just like crazy.
That
Nah.
whole week of hand sewing, that's what that was between two people. So,
No,
oof.
I had chopped up some pants. I was trying to like do I basically just like cut holes in a pair of pants, a cheap pair of pants that I was like gonna try to like repatch the cut
Okay.
denim like back into it to make like the
Yeah.
weird patchwork thing. I got like one square sewn in, and it took me like 3 days like on and off like messing with it. I was just like,
Yeah.
man, this. But it's fun though. It's very I find it like very relaxing, just sitting there putting the needle and thread and stuff in there, and like
Yeah.
I'm not really like I'm not in a rush to get a machine after kind of I was like because I had talked to a couple people and they're just like, oh, sewing's a lot of work, Anthony. You're gonna have to get like a machine. They're like it's almost like they're trying to discourage me from it, and then
Mm.
it's like this isn't that bad. It's just time intensive.
Yeah.
Like
I have a lot of time where I'm just sitting around like on my phone and stuff, and I'm like, never mind. I'll go sew something while I'm either
yeah,
watching TV or listen to an audiobook. Um, and for me, it's a very meditative process to hand sew something. Like I've told you before, I use this very very simple one stitch or so.
yeah,
Um, but I don't know. There's something special about having something that's completely hand sewed. There's almost like a magic that you're imbuing into it with each pull of the thread.
mm,
I feel like intention that's put into either a piece of clothing or an art piece, you can really feel the intention that's put into something. And for me, hand sewing brings an intention there that I want to give to the people that buy my stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And yeah, like it kind of, I don't know, this yeah, the act of sewing kind of like, I'm going on like a whole tangent now with sewing, but it kind of it's just yeah, it's real interesting. Just picking up like those old skills that I feel like a lot of people kind of take for granted because it's like, uh, yeah, I mean, sewing machines have now been around for like ever, you know, so it's
True.
just kind of like I don't know. It's just yeah, it's really I've been kind of on a kick of just trying to learn more like
Oh yeah.
practical like traditional skills, you know.
Yeah.
Um, but um,
I'm all about learning as much as I can. I feel like knowledge is a pillar of life for me, you know, where I find value, and just kind of learn new things, and then that urge to learn more keeps me going and learning new things. So
sorry, I had a pop up. But yeah, no, I love that. Yeah, like I mean, when I start thinking about like the if I start pondering the meaning of life, you know, it's like I just come back to just like I mean, it's all about just learning, right? Like if you're not learning every day, it's like life just kind of gets boring and like stagnant, you know.
yeah,
Um,
yeah,
oh yeah, just I'm kind of like I think I'm kind of like addicted to information though, you know, and that might be more of like a that might be kind of like a consequence of the internet, you know, just
yeah,
like
for sure.
it's like there's too much now, but yeah, I feel like, you know, yeah, I'm overloaded with information, but I love just like learning about new, you know, new stuff. So,
Yeah, no, it's great.
um, with you know, with like just like the scene that we're in, you know, everything's like on like physical releases. So I'm kind of curious, like, do you collect like tapes or records or anything like that? I've talked to a few people that like you know, they would release stuff on tapes, but then they're like, oh no, I can't. I don't actually like collect anything. It's like because you know, it's like they don't have like a tape deck, or it's like they're
Right.
kind of like a minimalist, like you know,
Yeah,
which I get, but I am definitely like a physical hoarder. So,
bro. Being my art practice is centered a lot around like my fine art practice is centered a lot around found objects and
mhm.
incorporate that into installation pieces and sculptures and stuff. Um, so I am constantly collecting things, which gets to be a mess sometimes. Like my workspace is an accident, but the collecting aspects of Dungeon Synth is one of the things I love because it's
Mhm.
affordable to buy a tape. You know, I can go out and buy a tape on my paycheck, um, like every week almost if I wanted to. It's affordable. I'm supporting the artists directly by buying their tapes. You know, most of the time you got people sitting there hand dubbing their tapes, which is so cool. That
Mhm.
goes back to that intention thing. You know, I love to have something that has a bunch of intention into it. Um, and they're so cool. Like so many people put so much work into their tapes. Like I have a few Coniferous Mist tapes, Nocturnal, what was it? Nocturnal Effigy, stuff like that. Super cool. Woodland Crown Records. I've had
Oh
a
man,
couple
I love the
releases
stuff
through
he's
them, bro.
doing.
Oh my
The
gosh,
art
every
that he does
single
is
one of
just
those.
like crazy. Is yeah, I
Oh,
want to him. I really want to buy one of his. You know, now he's like selling like the original pieces. I'm just
yeah,
like, yeah, one day.
right.
But yeah,
Bart Coon has one of my original. Well, so Woodland Crown did both my Samuel releases, and I think Bart Coon has either one or two of the original pieces from that. I was gonna buy them, but I saw them sold, and I was like, okay, that's the person I would love to have it though, because
yeah.
he loves Samuel stuff, and that yeah, I love Samuel too. So
Oh yeah. I mean, those are great. Like a great little like EP too. I mean, I
yeah,
was yeah. Um.
my arm, you can kind of see him peeking out there.
Oh, dude, that's dope. I love that. That's cool.
Yeah,
Sick.
got him.
Um. Do you have do you have any like are all your tattoos like professional, or do you have any like stick and pokes or
Um,
like
all of mine have been done with a machine.
mm,
No folks yet, but I'm not against it. Um, I've done some of my own, so
oh yeah, yeah.
yeah.
No, I
Um,
yeah, because I have like a couple that are from off a machine like bought from Amazon, and then like lately I've been kind of I guess not lately, but I went through a period where I was into like the stick and poke thing. So I got a
Yeah.
couple of like really bad stick and pokes I did on myself. And then yeah, I'm like professional ones like honestly on my leg, but I always just like whenever I see someone and I don't I feel like it comes off as like an insult. It's just being like, was like, well, just do that. And it's not like I mean it like that. It's just like I've just been so into the idea of just like, and I know like it's kind of becoming more popular to just kind of like, oh, well, let me just tattoo myself because you can just
Yeah.
get the machines on Amazon, you know? So it's like, that's always like my first thing I ask because it's like, you know, I'm like, well, shit, you did that yourself. Like, that's really good.
Yeah, yeah, a good chunk of mine I've done myself, but it's a cool thing. Yeah,
Yeah.
I don't know. The art
I,
of tattooing is so cool to hear. Um, yeah, just to
yeah.
see people do it, it's like wow, impressive.
Yeah. I, I love like tattoos and like body modifications and shit. So it's like, you know, if I spot a tattoo on someone, I'm gonna have to ask, you know, I'm gonna have to ask
For
about
sure,
it.
for sure. Yeah, I got a lot of leg pieces. I really love the leg stuff. Mine ended up being symmetrical all the way right now. It's kind of crazy. They mirror each other, but
Oh shit! Like just like in the like same sizes and positions, or like
same
what?
sizes, same positions, same like shapes. Um, I have two small like circular slash around the same size things on my knees, and then farther up, two circular things as well, and then above that, two cross shapes that just ended up that way. They're all different things, and they're not in any way related to each other, but they just ended
Uh-huh.
up being something that visually moves in the same way. So it's kind of cool.
Oh shit! Yeah, that's cool.
Yeah.
Sick. Yeah, you have a like tell me more about your degree, dude. I know you like because you mentioned that to me before, and I'm kind of like just curious, like what, like yeah, man, like you. I mean, you got a you like went to art school or like is it
Yeah,
was it like
I
regular
went to.
university or
It's just a new normal university, nothing like crazy like any of the big name art
hmm.
universities.
Okay,
Um,
I think it was your like this is like going way back like a few months, but I remember like that was when I was like, whoa, what the fuck are you doing? And it was like your like final like thesis
yeah,
project or something, and it was just like the most like like there was like strings and there was like instruments you had caught like it was just like it was wild as fuck, and that's how I was yeah I remember you know and then I had to ask you I was like well, what is all this for?
yeah, yeah. No, it's kind of crazy. I was so being like a visual artist. That's what I went for college for and stuff. I was very graced to be able to go through college and as a fine artist, and I'm not really doing that as a profession. My goal isn't to do that as a profession. I'd like to be like a professor or something, but as a but yeah, as a visual artist, it's strange to unite the music side of what I do with the visual conceptual side of what I was doing. I always felt they were separate. I was doing a lot of collage work, a lot of the majority of what my college trained for was like drawing and painting and stuff.
Mm.
But I ended up in found objects and like assemblage installation pieces. I ended up working with a lot of VHS tape and cassette tape stuff with like tape loops, and I would string out the inside of VHS tapes on the walls and use that as like a sculpting material. I had this one piece that was like when you see in like cartoons somebody will drive through mud and you'll end up with the splatter on the wall with the outline of the
Yeah.
person. I did that, but with VHS tape on the wall. It was
Oh
kind of
shit.
crazy piece. It was like dripping off the ceiling and stuff. It was insane. Um, yeah, and so my music was happening, my art career was happening, and I was trying to figure out a way to blend them. And so a lot of that went into like researching historical like story stuff that goes alongside music, and a lot of the I have a lot of interest in like European like cultures, Scandinavian stuff like that. And the instruments that came up for storytelling in those cultures was like the lyres, and they were one of the more simpler instruments for me to learn how to make in a cramped schedule. And the historical aspect of that brought into the conceptual side of the art, And then I also use that in Dungeon Sense stuff too. So I was like, okay, these things are combining. And I analyzed 3 specific stories: story of Beowulf, J.R.R. Tolkien's Lord of the Rings, and my own story. And I compared like the importance of story in people's individual lives. So that was the main theme of my art show that I did for my senior thesis. Yeah, I think it was around the time I was finishing up Escaping 2 when all that happened with my senior thesis show. And I don't know, I was really focusing on story writing. I was really feeling how important story was to me. And a lot of people in the Dungeon Synth scene enjoy story, and I enjoy the stories that they make. It's like people who play D&D, it's all about story and you experiencing that story. And I think in the real world too, I love meeting people and hearing their stories of life and what they've gone through, what they're going through, and what they enjoy and all that. So I was really focusing on how story is important, and how important the stories are to me, and how those stories were told historically and artistically. So that's how it kind of synthesized into my show. It was kind of crazy to put it together, but it was a lot of fun. I synthesized my music making, my sewing, and my sculptural side all into one thing that was an installation piece. So
Yeah, yeah. I mean, it's literally it was. I mean, yeah, it looked like everything, just like a piece of everything that you do, just all It's like this is a room and it's Spife.
yeah,
Very dope. I love it. Yeah.
it's crazy. Yeah.
But
Speaking
so
of, how is running a label? I know that's a lot of intensive work to put into something. So
um yeah, shit. It's just like just a lot of work and a lot of things going wrong, just with
yeah,
just keeping the tape machines running and just having to deal with like just dealing with like the analog media. There's just like a lot of things that can go wrong. And yeah, I mean it's just been like a lot of kind of just like I still do just kind of do everything myself still. So it's all
okay,
just
yeah,
been like a very long thing of like learning how to like needing to get something done, learning how to do it,
mm.
fucking up a lot, getting it fixed, and then keeping it moving, and then
Yeah,
yeah, and I'm just trying to, I don't know, I'm just like really trying to get more. I want to be able to provide more for like the community, and that's why I'm like trying to do this like podcast interview thing because it's like I love listening to interviews with people that I think are doing cool shit. So it's
yeah,
like like I can do it. I can make that I can make that happen because yeah.
yeah,
But yeah, I just like it's just I think it's interesting getting to hear because this too it's like the format. I don't want it to be like an interview. It's kind of more like we're just like kind of talking, and I think
yeah,
that allows for like more just like a more free flow of like information and ideas, just
yeah.
like
Fact.
so. Um, so what do you have? Do you have like? I mean, yeah. I guess like I'll plug our upcoming releases.
Yeah,
Um, we got because yeah, we got the Histories of Mankind. The live performance. We're gonna have that recorded, put onto. We're gonna do a VHS run of those, and then
I'm so excited for that.
dude, yeah, it's gonna be sick. I'm really excited on those. I'll be I guess by the time this podcast comes out, it'll have been announced. I'll probably start putting that out this week.
Yeah,
And then yeah, we got that, and we're doing the split tapes of your split with Saltmarsh, aka Barkton, and
uh,
like man, that's like such a sick project too. It's like I mean, I feel like, but that your songs on there and his tracks are both like kind of just like outside the realm of like your guys's like normal
yeah,
like music and stuff, but yeah, no, it's like it's so good though, and I love the I'm like a big like just kind of that like slow doomy type, like I love that
yeah,
shit. So
uh, yeah. Glenn Barkun killed it. Mixing saxophone with like black end inspired like metal stuff. That's genius, bro. Um, I heard it on an agriculture track that released recently. They have saxophone on there, and I was like, bro, he did it first. Salt Marsh did it first, and I was here for it, and I saw it, and I know it. Oh, it's so cool.
We need more of that though. It's just like, yeah, just like more instruments, putting instruments into like
Yeah,
genres and songs where it's like, at first thought, it's like that really doesn't make any sense and like probably shouldn't be done. But it's like in the right hands and the
do
right
it,
ears, it totally
do it.
works.
Oh, there's so many good things. And Bardcoon stuff that he's done for Tomb Wizard, where he's had his saxophone featured on a few Tomb
Yeah.
Wizard tracks. They're so hauntingly beautiful. I think there's one that's not been released yet, or maybe it has. Um, but I've heard snippets of it, and oh my goodness, bro, it's such a moving piece. I can go on a tirade about both of those guys. Um, Tomb Wizard hit such a scratch of sonic, like painterly stuff. It reminds me of when I was young and I would go over to my friend's house and watch him play Skyrim late at night.
Yeah.
And the soundtrack would rumble the TV speakers so much, and it was such a rich, deep sound. And it echoes through my mind to this very day. And Tomb Wizard captures that most out of any other Dungeon Synth artist I've listened to. So
Yeah.
it's cool to have worked with him, to continue to work with him, and then same for Bardcoon. Like, two talented people.
Oh yeah. Like I'm then that's another thing is I just feel yeah, I just feel so like there's just so many like everybody's just so talented. And I just like,
Yeah,
you know, I man, I I will like it's like it's hard for me not to just like gush over like just all these
same.
people that I know because I'm just like, oh man, you guys are just like you guys are just so talented and I just like fucking I just love all the music and art you guys are making. It's just like
Appreciate it.
it's just so beautiful. You know, just
Yeah,
being I don't know. It's just it's great. Everything going on right now. It's just like yeah, I love it.
yeah.
Um but yeah, so like beyond I guess like well we have those coming out physically and I know you've like released you have like a few recent like digital releases. What are your like what do you have like do you have anything like in the works? I guess like beyond our releases, maybe for something physical or another like a new digital release.
Man, my list of projects for to finish this year is it keeps growing and shifting and changing. I think I have like as of now 7 confirmed like more projects for this year. To at least be released digitally, and then I'm just finding places to put those out. The most recent two, like Skilthy Sword and Death of Moral Dinner Thrall, we'll be getting physical release soon. I don't know when exactly yet, but there's things going on with there. I'm working on some like visualizer music videos for those albums too.
Oh, cool.
I've been building hella props this week for that, and like I made these bracers last night to use for those and stuff.
Oh, sick.
Yeah.
Like are those leather or
They're
oh
actually
man.
EVA costuming foam. I can't afford leather right now, and
Uh,
I had a bunch of this foam, and I was like, let me give this a go. So popped it out, got a few
those are
thrifted
so
belts,
cool looking though.
put
Yeah.
them together. Yeah, I'm happy with how they turned out. Um, but yeah, and I keep adding new projects. Like I made this character that I'm dressed up as right now for a D&D game that I was playing today, and I like this character a lot, and I might just incorporate it into my own stories. Who knows, man? Battle gnome coming at you.
I love it. Man, I am so this Wednesday I'm actually starting my very first D&D campaign. I've never been able like I've always wanted to play, but I've never been able to find like a reliable group of friends that like that play and that I like would want to like have the time commitment like every week, you know.
True.
Because it's just like, yeah, you know, that's kind of daunting, you know. It's like you got to be there every week for that quest.
Yeah,
but now,
fair.
but now one of my homies invited me to start playing with them on Wednesday nights. We got like a real nice, like little close knit group, and like they're not
Okay.
very open like on the rules and shit. Like there's no
Yeah.
yeah. So I'm super pumped. Like we're just gonna be yeah, you know, it'll be chill. It's not gonna be like anything. I don't know. And Dungeons and Dragons just is like it's so intimidating. Like I've played I grew up on like Baldur's Gate and like
Yeah.
all those like old like 90s like role playing games.
Oh
But then
yeah.
the idea of like, and I played a lot of like the board games that are like more intensive or whatever. But
Right.
fuck, man, Dungeons and Dragons is just intimidating.
Bruh, I was in that same boat. I think the first time I played D&D was like a year or two ago. Sue me. But man, it's so much fun. And if you're with the right group, the pressure is completely alleviated from it too, because it's really just
Mhm.
imagining stuff. And with the right DM, you're literally watching these scenes play out in your head. I feel like I'm watching a movie every time I played.
Yeah.
I play Call of Cthulhu a lot too, and that's super fun too. Uh, so many, yeah. Nah, it's super inspiring just to sit down and imagine and be creative with people and have that bounce back to you. Um, like D&D is such a collaborative thing between the DM and the game players.
Mhm.
It's yeah, that I love that about that. And actually, for the Thrush Mile Bog album that I did, that was a big collaborative project with like I don't know, like who do I have? Moss Troll, Bardcoon, Maidenhair, Frogblin. Um, I think that's about it. But a good chunk of people on that. How that album works, I sent out the core of like an idea story or a core story idea for people to respond to musically. They sent back tracks, and then I responded to that and filled out the rest of the story through those tracks. It was like a bunch of writing prompts to each other and stuff. And that's kind of how D&D is, I'll be honest, from my experience at least.
No, man. Oh man, I'm glad you like brought that up because that's like another kind of something I was gonna wanted to ask about. It was just like how I mean, now I'm kind of like going off in like a different direction than D&D,
Yeah.
but yeah, like with the music, when you have like those collaborative albums, like it's just like that's like I guess we were kind of talking about it earlier, but just like yeah, bringing together like those artists and making it work into like a cohesive like final thing is like has got to be it's very impressive to me, to take like
It's super
people,
satisfying.
yeah.
Yeah, I it's super interesting. I have a couple other bands that I actually physically record stuff with together, and that's become harder and harder to do because we're not in same physical proximity.
Oh
Um,
yeah.
but with the Dungeon Synth community, there's a lot of collabs that we do where we're not really super meddling in each other's musical like recording processes.
Mhm.
We're just making stuff that complements each other, and that's super fun. In the majority of projects that I've collabed with, it's ended up being stuff that I've still written story for, which I'm very honored to still people have like input and help create a cool story with me. Um, like the Marjadidge split that we did of the dwarves and of the skept. He handled completely the skept side of the music and stuff, and I wrote the story for both parts. But they both turned out so great. Like everything was perfectly complemented to what I written for the story for him to respond to, and his music and completely set like I don't know, like an immersive atmosphere for you to delve into this stuff with. So it's yeah, super cool. Super honored to be working with people that I've worked with so far.
Yeah. So back to the Dungeons.
Yeah.
Yeah, back to the Dungeons and Dragons thing. Now I'm just kind of just going off topic, but yeah, what kind of character you play, dude?
Well, right now I'm playing a Eldritch fighter gnome who's kind of specializing in necromancy. That's my goal, at least. Yeah.
Cool. Yeah, I still need to look at the I still need to look at the race and characters and kind of figure out what I know for sure. I want to be a spellcaster,
Oh
some sort
yeah.
of like wizard mage thing. I just haven't decided. Like, yeah, I don't know. Probably gonna go for like maybe a gnome if that works. With I want to be something short,
Yeah. No, it's
something
fun.
small.
This is my first time playing as a gnome in any game so far, and it's really fun because you have a lot of funny stuff happening. Like, uh, my friend wrote the story for this campaign that we're playing, but on my background, I came from like a forest or whatever, a forest town. I was trying to find out a way to make it where my character, like a warrior gnome, is not something I really think of much. I feel like those are two different things. Um,
I,
but I was
that,
trying to find a way to make it interesting and somewhat humorous because I love funny things so much, but also when it's taken seriously too. Um, so I said that he's like a defender of the forest, but he's decided to make his best defense and his offense and go out and fight people before they start to attack his forest village. So he's out on an adventure trying to slay people who are threats to the forest. Um, but then there also some weird side story that spawned of how evil squirrels are like my worst enemy because they were attacking our village too. So I have like this bunches of scars and war stories from fighting squirrels. It's so stupid, but it's so good.
I love it, man. Yeah, man, my friends, they just like the way that my friend tells me like what happens like in their campaign or whatever is like so detailed and in depth, and it's like he's just trying to give me a rundown, but it still ends up being like I got drawn into the story, so I'm
Yeah,
like, yeah, I'm super stoked to play with them because I'm just like, if this is how you're just like explaining it to like a layman, like I don't know, like it's got to be intense when we're like, like
it's good. It's good shit. You have to let me know how it goes, man.
yeah. I think our first game, I think they were talking about doing like some sort of they're gonna like make it take place in space somehow. So like I don't know if they're like, yeah, I don't know. I'm excited for it.
Yeah.
I mean that's kind of something we do with like with our Swamp Dragon project, which is like
Mm.
it's me and then two of my two dudes in Wichita that do like noise projects, and then I kind of joined on as like a third member. But there's like a whole they have like a whole like mythos like
Oh wow.
storyline thing that goes with like each album, and
Oh
then but yeah, it's like that's like one of my favorite parts of like the whole, because it's like every time we like play a show or something and someone's like, oh, like you know they ask us about the project or whatever, and then my buddy was just like, he's like, well, and he just gets into this like, he explains it from like the perspective of like this like storyline, and he's like, yeah, and this guy right here, he's young Bruja. We met him at an intergalactic way station.
oh, that's amazing.
So I'm hoping that this D&D thing will give kind of give more inspiration for this like
True.
whole. We're trying to like develop out like our characters and shit for like the live shows too, and just like
Yeah.
I think that's kind of why we're doing the D&D thing. It's like we gotta like really like get some storyline going and like turn it
Oh,
into our
that's great.
characters.
Yeah. No, I love that. Um, as of so far, I've definitely performed through like many different characters when I perform live. The most common one I've performed through is Kerwin, which is my typical like black metal face paint that I use.
Dude,
Um,
I love the face paint you do. Like it's so like unique, and like it's like, man, I have your Bandcamp page open right now, but it's like, yeah,
yeah,
it just like it reminds me of the old like the mask that they wear during like Mardi Gras. Like it's just like,
yeah.
so I don't know. Yeah, it's just like that. It's great. I was just like, yeah.
Thank you. Yeah. Yeah. I'm working on a video right now that kind of explains the magic system of my story better. But the face paint is definitely something that is used in the magic system of my world. So each wizard has like a different face paint. I wanted to incorporate the lore into the costume design of like black metal face paint because I love that stuff. It's cool, and I wanted to
Yeah.
make it lore specific too. So Kerwin so far has been my main character I performed through. That's like the first wizard of my story. But then I got like the choral wizard hasn't I haven't performed as them yet, but that's one of them. And then I don't know. Like I love performing through characters.
Yeah.
Um, I
Does
always
it
remember. Oh, what did you say?
like when okay, so like when you perform, do you feel any sort of this is like this is kind of like a two-sided question. It's like, do you feel any like sort of like kind of like pre-performance anxiety, and then like, and if you do you think like getting in the mindset of being like a different character, like does that would you think that like helps?
I think it definitely helps with that. Personally, I like to kind of keep myself separate from my music. I don't want to
Mhm.
get like egotistical or whatever, you know. It's not about me, it's about the music. And I try to
Right.
live by that. And one of the ways that I've found to do that is by performing through characters and writing through characters.
Mhm.
Um, so when I perform, it definitely helps me to step back from myself and let the music speak through these characters that I'm writing. So yeah, it helps with alleviating anxiety, and it's also just a way for me to make the music and the story that is also the music um, front and center.
Mhm.
That's why I do characters for live stuff, and even when it's not live, um,
Yeah.
like the death of Moro Denethral, I made a new character for that, basically one of the old kings of the Eldslands, and wrote from the perspective of him trying to slay this dragon and stuff. Um, uh, and I made a new outfit and face paint for that and stuff. So it was super fun to create all these props and stuff like that for that, because I get to really sit with this story, develop it personally, and then show it to everybody and be like, guys, there's a new character now.
Yeah.
um, yeah, it's just fun, you know. I always think back to one of my favorite albums of all time, if not my favorite album of all time, is the Lamb Lies Down on Broadway by Genesis. It's like a oh gosh, what's it called? It's a concept album that's like two vinyl records. There's a word for that, but I can't think of it. Um, but it's a completely crazy story. But when he would perform these live shows, Peter Gabriel was the front man at the time. When he would perform, he would go through costume changes that during the concert that would be like there was one creature in the story that had like these bubbling like boils on it that had he used balloons and stuff to make it do that live, and that always been a huge inspiration to me when making live music and just making my music with the story
Mhm.
and stuff. um Same for like David Bowie through all the characters that he performed through, you know. It's like I don't know, something about it's really cool.
Yeah. It's like I don't know. And it's like I like how it like allows you to like I don't know. It's like you can do I don't know. It creates like that separation with like if you're wanting to make like something that just sounds a little bit different. You know, it's like
Yeah,
because it's like you release most of your stuff, or I think all of your stuff is all just under like Spife, but then it's like within Spife you have like the different like characters and stuff that like represent like the project, which is like very cool.
yeah.
Um,
I love how people in the Dungeon scene create so many different like alternate like names and stuff to put out things through. But
yeah,
I couldn't get on that just because I didn't want to put the work into it. Even though I'm
uh,
still doing that, I just didn't want to have like so many different Bandcamp pages and so many
and
different
different social medias and all
streaming.
that. It's yeah,
Exactly. I just
yeah,
keep
I
it
get
all under
that.
one facet. Yeah.
Yeah.
But
Some
same
people are
thing.
just I don't know how they do it. You know, they have like separate band camps for every project. You know, it's
Yeah.
just like
That's coniferous miss for me, bro. I don't know how they have such a high output over so many different things. That's all really good stuff too. I'm like, oh my goodness.
and then it's all like you know, and then yeah, it's all like different because man, a couple I didn't realize until like it was like a few months ago you released had a release called The Prowler, which was like a harsh noise
Hmm.
project.
Yeah,
And
yeah,
but there was one too, it was like that was like themed around sharks. That
yep,
was
yep.
just like man, his even his like his noise releases, like I would just I like listen to that shit and I was just like, what the like dude is just so like just has like an ear for music, you know? Like and yeah,
His stuff
great
as
stuff.
Alpine Acrobat. He had like 3 or 4 releases under that. That was some of the best dungeon synth I heard in early dungeon synth listening for me. Like, such a warm texture that instantly makes me think of fall and outside and like the forests and stuff. And
Mhm.
I really wish I had a chance to get those on physical releases. They sold out way too quick for me to even grab. And I'm like, oh gosh, I can't find them. Even the digital files are gone now, and I'm like, oh, I'm so sad. Oh,
anytime I see his releases go in stock, it's like by the time I see it, there's one left or they're just sold out. It's yeah,
yeah,
it's crazy. But
yeah.
man, I'd like, but I get it, I mean, like, yeah, it's everything is just like so just on point, and
Mhm.
creates that like I don't know. And like something I really dig with his stuff. Well, I guess a lot of artists, in the scene are using like use like the old like vintage keyboards and stuff, which I've
Yeah.
always just been kind of like obsessed with. And then yeah, seeing like him, like he's just like just straight out the aux, on like an
Mm,
old like Yamaha and shit. Because like when I was a teenager, I had a friend that was like he would just buy like yeah, it was like when you can pick up like old Casios and Yamahas, like just
Yep.
go into a thrift store. They have like a pile of them for like $5. And so I
Yep.
had a friend that yeah, just had like this huge collection and he'd make weird like kind of like synth punky type shit with it.
Oh
And it
yeah.
just kind of like yeah, it got me on like a rabbit hole of just like yeah, I love keyboards like that. And then now seeing people like making like because but like the stuff that like he was kind of doing and like the stuff that I'd mess around with, it's like has like that kind of like toy keyboard. Like it sounds kind of corny, but it's like
Yeah.
but the seeing what people are doing with like just like this like ambient piano, and it's like off of I got one right here. I got my old Yamaha right here.
Yeah. Yeah. That's
But
classic.
like yeah, to like take that and to just like create these like deep textured like just soundscapes is just like it's so I don't know. And I love
Yeah.
how it's like I mean, well now everybody's trying to like, everybody wants these keyboards, so they're like going up in price. But I
Yeah.
really like how just seeing like old technology like that like, you know, it's not going to like the landfills anymore. Like people are really wanting it now, and it's like
Yeah.
I like that it's being kept around. Hopefully people that still do have these things aren't going to be like they're not going to be trash. They're going to be a little bit more careful with them,
Yeah.
because yeah, this shit needs to be preserved. Like
100%. The keyboard that I used to record all of the Samuel projects, both of the EPs, was a keyboard that my mother had in the 80s when she was a teenager. Like that's the same keyboard that she used then and I use now to make music that I've heard. Like I've heard that keyboard since I was a baby, and now I
uh,
use it, and it's crazy, man. Ugh, it's so good.
man, I didn't. That's something I've never even because yeah, I mean all my stuff is like is all I've just all bought like secondhand, But
Yeah.
it's interesting to think of like like yeah, I was just playing this thing earlier today, but it's like that's kind of got me thinking like how many hands have gone over this thing and like
Mhm.
yeah, it's interesting. I guess just buying any like getting any sort of like used instrument, it's like there's like a whole like story to it,
Yeah, it's
It's kind
alive.
of kind of neat to think about.
It goes back to that intention thing, man. Having something
Yeah,
that's secondhand, it has a certain energy to it that you won't find in a new piece of either clothing or technology or
yeah,
like scent or whatever. There's certain, yeah, that's why I love secondhand stuff too, because it's alive more than it's not. So
yeah. It's just like there's like I don't know. There's just something special to it, I guess.
for sure.
Do you have any like final thoughts or yeah, anything to like close it out?
Yeah. I want to say that this scene is like stupid important. Like, even though it's so small, it's so interconnected. The amount of love for my silly little stories and music that I make is beyond what I could have ever had imagined. So I'm super honored to be in this scene and to see people create what they create and to have people that inspire me as much as they do, like, and that I get to interact with these people too. So yeah, I guess I don't know. Keep creating to everybody who's listening.
Oh
Um,
yeah,
yeah, that's what I say.
oh yeah, dude, I love it. Yeah, I mean that's what keeps it, keeps the scene growing, keeps it moving. So, yeah, people got to keep making stuff, and
Mhm.
I'm really excited to see yeah what the future holds because I feel like we're on like a precipice potentially of it being like a maybe a big thing in its own little small bubble, but I don't know. It's just we're so young in it, and it's great to see. Like,
it's a really interesting time.
Yeah.